My name is Eleanor Vance, and I am 70 years old. It was my daughter Clara's 45th birthday, and I had arrived at her house early with the cake. It was a masterpiece. 4 layers of Valrhona chocolate, spun sugar latticework, and fresh, out-of-season strawberries flown in from New Zealand. It had cost me nearly $400, but for my only child, nothing was too expensive. I knocked on the door of her $3 million Pacific Heights home, a home I had bought her with a smile, expecting to see her face light up. But when she opened it, her expression was one of total, undisguised annoyance. "Oh God, it's you," she muttered. "Happy birthday, my love," I said, holding out the heavy box. "I brought your favorite, just like when you were a kid." Clara sighed, a deep, frustrated sound, as if my presence were an unbearable burden. "Mom, we need to talk," she said dryly, letting me inside without even a thank you. We sat in the immaculate white living room, a room I had paid an interior designer $50,000 to decorate. "You know, Mom," Clara began, in that cold, clinical voice she had developed over the past few years, "I've been thinking a lot about my birthday, about presents, and about what would truly make me happy." I nodded enthusiastically. "Of course, my love. Tell me what you want, and I'll get it for you. A trip, some jewelry, maybe that new Tesla you mentioned?" Clara looked me straight in the eye, and what I saw there chilled me to the bone. It wasn't annoyance. It was pure, cold contempt. "The one thing I'd love most as a birthday present," she said slowly, savoring each word, "is for you to just die." The world stopped. I literally felt as if someone had ripped my heart from my chest. Her words echoed in the cavernous room. Die. My daughter, my own daughter, had wished for my death as a birthday gift. "What? What did you just say?" I managed to whisper, feeling the sting of tears. "You heard me," she continued, her voice like knives. "I'm tired of you, Mom. Tired of your constant calls, your unexpected visits, of you always being here, hovering, bothering me. My life would be so much easier and happier if you would just disappear." My hands were shaking uncontrollably. 70 years of living, 45 years of being her mother. I never thought I would hear those words. "Clara," I managed to say, the sobs catching in my throat, "I'm your mother. I've given you everything. I've sacrificed everything for you." "Exactly," she interrupted, standing up from the sofa. "And that's why you're suffocating me. I can't breathe with your constant presence. I need freedom. I need you to let me live my life without your drama and your emotional needs." The $400 cake was still in my hands. The candles, shaped in a 45, suddenly looked like a mockery. "But honey," I tried one more time, "I just want to be close to you, to be a part of your life. You're all I have." "And that's exactly the problem," she replied, crossing her arms. "The fact that I'm all you have. Go get a life of your own and leave me alone." I got up from the sofa, my legs trembling, carrying that ridiculous, expensive cake. "I can't believe you're saying this to me," I murmured, "after everything I've done for you." "Everything you've done?" She laughed, a short, sarcastic bark. "Mom, everything you've done has been for your own benefit, to feel needed, to have control over my life. But I'm not a little girl anymore." I walked toward the door, feeling as if each step was costing me years of my life. As I reached the threshold, I turned one last time, hoping to see some regret in her eyes, some sign of the sweet little girl she once was. But I only saw impatience. Impatience for me to leave, so she could finally celebrate her birthday without the nuisance I represented. "Happy birthday, Clara," I murmured, and I walked out of that house, closing the door behind me. I didn't know at that moment that it would be the last time I would ever enter that house as the mother who had sacrificed everything. Because what my daughter didn't know was that she had just awakened something in me, something that had been dormant for decades. I arrived at my small apartment in the Sunset District, my legs trembling, my heart a shattered wreck. The $400 cake ended up in the trash, frosting and all. The melted candles were a reflection of the tears that wouldn't stop falling. I sat on my old sofa, the same sofa where I had nursed Clara as a baby, where I had read her stories, where I had cried with joy every time she called me Mom. How had I ended up here? How could my own daughter wish for my death? I began to remember. Everything, absolutely everything I had done for her. When she was 3 and got that rare pneumonia, I worked triple shifts at the hospital for 6 months to pay for the specialist. It was $20,000 in medical bills my insurance didn't cover. Money I got from cashing out my own small retirement fund. When she turned 16, she wanted to go to Paris with her French class. I worked weekends for a year as a private nurse to pay for that $8,000 trip. I remember how her eyes sparkled. "Thank you, Mom. You're the best in the world." In college, when she decided she wanted to go to Stanford, I paid for every semester, $250,000 in total. Money I got by taking out a massive second mortgage on my own apartment. "Don't worry, honey," I'd tell her. "Your education is the most important thing." When she married Marcus, I organized and paid for the entire wedding, $100,000, the Street Regis Hotel, the designer gown, the flowers. "I want my princess to have everything," I told her as I signed check after check. And then came the house. That very house where she had just humiliated me. When Clara and Marcus decided they wanted to buy their first property, I didn't hesitate. "Don't worry about the down payment," I told them. It wasn't a down payment. I bought the house outright. $1.5 million. My entire life savings, the money I had been saving for my own retirement, the inheritance from my parents, all of it. But it didn't end there. When the twins arrived 5 years ago, I became the free babysitter. Every time Clara wanted to go to yoga, every time they had plans, there I was. When Marcus lost his job last year, who paid their mortgage, their utilities, their car payments for 8 months? Me, $40,000 that I took from my pension. Money that meant I ate rice and beans for weeks. And when the twins needed braces, another $8,000 that I covered. "That's what grandmothers are for," I'd said. I got up from the sofa and went to my desk where I kept all the receipts. Boxes and boxes of documents. I started doing the math. College, $250,000. Wedding, $100,000. The house, $1,500,000. Mortgage, bills, $40,000. Braces, $8,000. Gifts, trips, cars over the years, at least $100,000 more. The total was devastating. Over $2 million. I had invested $2 million in my daughter's happiness, and all of it just to hear that her greatest desire was for me to die. Tears fell onto the papers. If I had put that money in a savings account, today I would be a wealthy woman. I could be living in Paris, traveling the world, enjoying a comfortable retirement. Instead, I had chosen to invest in love. I had been a fool. I picked up the phone and dialed Clara's number. I needed to hear her voice one more time. "What do you want now, Mom?" she answered with annoyance. "Clara, I need to know if you really meant what you said to me today," I asked, my voice trembling. "Of course I meant it," she replied, without a hint of remorse. "Mom, it's time for you to understand that I need space. Your obsession with me isn't healthy." "Obsession?" I repeated. "You call a mother's love obsession?" "Yes, exactly that. And I hope that after today, you finally get the message. Respect my boundaries. Let me live my life." I hung up the phone. There was no misunderstanding. My daughter truly believed my love was a burden. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. At 3:00 the morning, something changed inside me. The sadness began to transform into something different. Into a cold, hard anger. My daughter wanted me to die. Well, maybe it was time to give her exactly what she asked for. The next day, I woke up with a mental clarity I hadn't experienced in years. The sadness was gone, replaced by a cold, sharp determination. If my daughter wanted me to disappear, I would. But not in the way she expected. I put on my best clothes and went out with a defined purpose. First stop, the bank. I had a joint account with Clara for her house emergencies, an account I had opened and in which I had deposited $100,000. "Good morning, Mrs. Vance," greeted the manager, Mr. Harris. I want to close joint account number 4587, I said with a smile. And I want to transfer the full balance of $100,000 to my personal account. Seeing that money return to my control gave me a satisfaction I hadn't felt in years. It was only the beginning. Next stop, my lawyer, Michael Adams, an old friend. Eleanor, he greeted me warmly. What brings you here? Michael, I need your help. I want to completely change my will. His eyebrows shot up. Has something happened with Clara? I told him everything. Every hurtful word. The death wish. Michael listened in silence, his expression becoming more serious with each detail. Eleanor, he said finally, I am so sorry. I never thought Clara was capable of something like that. Me neither, I sighed. But I've made my decision. I want to change my will and leave everything to the Children's Hospital Foundation. I also want to set up a trust for my grandchildren, but Clara cannot have access to that money until they turn 25. That can be done. Michael nodded. Also, anything with Clara's name on it, I want it changed. My daughter wants me to die, but when I do, she's not going to receive a single penny from me. We spent 2 hours reviewing all my documents, my life insurance, my investments, everything. There's something else, I said. I want you to prepare all the documents to reclaim the house where Clara lives. What? I didn't just give her the down payment, Michael. I bought the house, but I put it in a trust. I am the trustee. She is the beneficiary, as long as she maintains the property. But her husband, Marcus, lost his job 6 months ago. They've been lying to me about it. They haven't paid the property taxes in a year. They are in breach of the trust agreement. Michael's eyes lit up with understanding. Are you sure you want to go that far? Completely sure, I replied. My daughter told me her life would be easier if I disappeared. Well, I'm going to disappear. But first, I'm going to make sure she understands exactly what it means to live without me. When I left Michael's office, it was dark. I walked through the streets feeling renewed. I got back to my apartment and poured myself a glass of wine. I took out my phone and dialed a number I had saved months ago, a travel agency specializing in expatriate living. Good evening. This is Eleanor Vance. I saw your promotion about living in Florence, Italy. Could you send me complete information? Of course, Mrs. Vance. What kind of information do you need? Everything, I replied. I want to know everything about how a 70-year-old woman can start a new life in Italy. After hanging up, I stood at the window. My daughter had asked for my disappearance as a birthday gift. I was going to grant it to her in the most spectacular way possible. The next few days were a flurry of secret preparations. On Wednesday morning, my phone rang. It was Clara. Mom, she said, her voice cold. I need you to do me a favor. What do you need? I asked. The twins have a presentation at school on Friday, and Marcus and I have an important dinner. Could you watch them? The irony was delicious. I can't, I replied simply. What do you mean you can't? She asked, genuinely surprised. I have other plans. I lied. What plans could you possibly have? She asked, her voice dripping with condescension. Plans that are none of your business, I replied. Find another sitter. But Mom, I can't get a sitter on such short notice. Besides, since when do you charge me to watch your own grandchildren? Since you told me that your greatest gift would be for me to die, I answered with coldness. If you want me to disappear from your life, I'm starting now. There was a long silence. Fine. She finally snapped. If you want to be childish, that's on you, but don't come crying later when you're lonely. She hung up. That afternoon, I went to the bank again, this time to withdraw $50,000 in cash, the money I would need for my new life in Florence. I also called the travel agency and confirmed my trip. A one-way flight to Florence for next Tuesday. That night, I worked on the most important letter of my life, the letter Clara would find. My dear Clara, it began, you asked me as a birthday gift to disappear from your life. I have decided to grant your wish. When you read this letter, I will already be far from here. I continued writing for hours, documenting every penny, the $250,000 for Stanford, the $100,000 for the wedding, the $1.5 million for the house. Along with this letter, you will find all the legal documents I have signed this week, I wrote. The change of will, the cancellation of the $100,000 emergency fund, and, most importantly, the notification that as the trustee of your home, I am exercising my right to reclaim the property due to your breach of the trust agreement. The property taxes have not been paid. You have 30 days to vacate the premises. It was a 10-page letter. Your life will be much easier without me, the letter ended. But it will also be much more expensive. I hope it was worth it. On Saturday, Marcus appeared at my door. He looked exhausted and desperate. "Eleanor," he said, "Clara told me what happened. Please don't do this to our family." "Do what, Marcus?" "Stop helping us," the bank called. "The emergency fund is gone. We needed that." How interesting. When Clara wanted to get rid of me, I was a nuisance. But when you realized what I did for you, suddenly you need me. Eleanor, you know how Clara is. She was just stressed. I lost my job again. I know, Marcus. You lost it 6 months ago and you've both been lying to me ever in. It's too late for that, I replied, slowly closing the door. Give my grandchildren a kiss for me. Sunday was my last day. On Monday, I would begin my new life. At 5 a.m. on Monday, my neighbor, Elara, knocked on my door. She was my accomplice. "Ready for your great escape?" she whispered, handing me coffee. "More than ready," I replied. Elara would wait until Wednesday to go to Clara's house and deliver the letter, pretending she had found my apartment empty. "To the airport," I told the cab driver. During the 12-hour flight to Florence, I turned off my phone. No one knew where I was. It was an intoxicating feeling of freedom. I arrived in Florence on Tuesday night. A representative from the agency, a kind man named Marco, took me to a beautiful furnished apartment overlooking the Arno. "Welcome to Italy, Mrs. Vance. I hope you're ready for a new adventure." "More than ready," I replied. On Wednesday morning, I woke up, had breakfast at a cafe, and bought fresh flowers. As I walked through the streets, I calculated that it would be 8 a.m. in San Francisco. Elara would be delivering the letter. At 5 p.m. my time, my phone started to vibrate. It was Clara. I let it ring. It rang again. I answered. "Mom!" she screamed, her voice cracking. "Where are you?" "Elara came to the house with a letter. She said you've disappeared. What is going on?" "Hello, Clara," I replied calmly, enjoying the view of the Ponte Vecchio. "Did you read the letter?" "Yes." "Are you crazy? How could you do this to us? Where are you?" "I'm exactly where I need to be," I replied. "Far away from you, just as you wanted. But I didn't want this. I didn't mean it." "You didn't mean it when you told me that your greatest birthday wish was for me to die?" I asked. "I was just frustrated. Marcus lost his job. The kids are giving me problems. I'm so stressed." "You're right. You shouldn't have. But it's done." "But Mom, please come back. We need you. I need you." How interesting. Now she needed me. "Do you need me, or do you need my money?" I asked. There was a long silence. "I need you," she finally murmured. "Clara, for 45 years, I lived for you. And when I needed you, you told me you'd rather I was dead." Those words broke my heart in a way I will never be able to fix. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry." "Sorry is not enough, Clara. The damage is done. And you know what? It was the best thing you could have said to me. It finally opened my eyes." "What do you mean?" "I mean, for the first time in decades, I am living for me. And it feels wonderful." "Where are you, Mom? Please tell me," she begged. "The kids are asking about their grandma." "The kids will be fine," I replied. "They will learn that actions have consequences, and that hurtful words can destroy relationships forever. But Mom, please, you can't just disappear." "What if something happens to you?" "Clara, in the last 5 years I've had 2 episodes of high blood pressure that sent me to the hospital. Do you know how many times you visited me? None. You had a hair appointment. You had a dinner party. So don't come to me now with concerns about my health." The silence on the other end confirmed she remembered. "It's not about the money, Mom," Clara screamed. "It's always been about the money, Clara. You just didn't realize it until it was gone." I hung up the phone. It immediately rang again. I turned it off. The next day, Thursday, I turned on my phone and found 7 missed calls and 23 text messages. They evolved from pleas to threats to panic. "Mom, please answer. We're so worried. If you don't answer, we're calling the police." The bank called. "You canceled the joint account. How are we going to pay for emergencies?" The lawyer called us. "You can't take our house. This is insane. You're ruining us." It was beautiful to see how concern for my well-being quickly turned into panic over the financial implications. I replied to one message, "I am fine. I am exactly where I need to be. Do not look for me." The response came in less than 5 minutes. "You don't understand what you're doing. You're going to ruin us." I replied, "Now you understand what it's worth to have me in your life. Too bad you realized it too late." That afternoon, I had my meeting with the Italian financial advisor. "Mrs. Vance," he told me, "with your assets and your pension, you can live comfortably here for the rest of your life. The quality of life is exceptional." On Friday, I joined a hiking group for older adults. I met a woman named Ingrid, a 71-year-old German. "What brought you here?" she asked. "A daughter who told me that her greatest birthday wish was for me to die," I answered. Ingrid looked at me with wide eyes. "Seriously?" "Completely. After financing her $1.5 million house and sacrificing my retirement for her needs," Ingrid smiled. "You are very brave. It took me 5 years to walk away from my toxic family. My son and daughter-in-law treated me like an ATM with legs. We shared our stories. I realized I was not alone." That night, my phone buzzed. A new text. "This is ridiculous, Mom. You're ruining our lives over a tantrum. Act like an adult and come back." And finally, desperation. "The bank served us foreclosure papers. We have 30 days. Please, just tell me you're okay." At no point did Clara genuinely apologize. It all revolved around the negative consequences her actions had for her. I replied one last time, "I am perfectly fine and happier than I have been in years. What you are experiencing now are the natural consequences of your actions." After sending that message, I blocked her number. On Monday morning, I met again with my lawyer in Florence to sign the papers for my permanent residency. That afternoon, I received a call from Alara, my neighbor. "Eleanor, you have to hear this. Clara came to my apartment yesterday, crying hysterically. She begged me to tell you to come back." "And what did you tell her?" I told her the truth, that what she had said was unforgivable, and that if I were you, I would have disappeared too. You should have seen her face. Did she mention the financial problems? "Oh, yes. She said without your help they can't pay the mortgage, that Marcus can't find a stable job. Basically, she realized everything you did for them after she lost it. She didn't miss me, Alara. She missed my bank account." "I know, dear. I know." 3 weeks after my arrival, my new life had taken shape. I had enrolled in Italian classes. I started a watercolor painting course. I joined a book club. But the most surprising thing was the money. Without Clara's constant financial demands, my savings were growing. Then, the most shocking call came. "Mrs. Eleanor Vance, this is Sarah Williams, a social worker from San Francisco." My blood ran cold. "Your daughter Clara filed a complaint alleging that you may be suffering from cognitive decline and that you've made financial decisions that put you at risk. According to her, you disappeared suddenly and are living in precarious conditions." I couldn't believe it. She was trying to have me declared mentally incompetent to regain control over my money. "Miss Williams," I replied, "I do not suffer from dementia. I am living in Florence by my own choice, in a comfortable apartment, and in perfect mental health. My daughter's allegations are completely false." "I understand, Mrs. Vance, but we need to verify. Would it be possible to coordinate a medical and psychological evaluation through the American consulate here in Florence?" "Of course," I replied. "I am willing to undergo any evaluation that demonstrates I am in perfect mental health." I immediately called my lawyer, Michael. "Eleanor, I'm glad to hear your voice. I've had a very interesting week with your daughter. She hired another lawyer to try to challenge all the legal changes you made. She's accusing me of having dementia. She can try, but she doesn't have solid legal grounds. I have recordings of all our conversations where you clearly demonstrate total lucidity. The fact that you meticulously planned your departure contradicts any allegation of cognitive decline. Michael, I want you to prepare a defamation lawsuit against my daughter. Her false allegations about my mental state could affect my reputation. It would be my pleasure, Michael replied. 2 days later, I showed up at the consulate. The American doctor who examined me was an older, experienced man. Mrs. Vance, he told me after a 3-hour evaluation, not only are you in perfect mental health, but the decisions you have made demonstrate admirable lucidity and courage. Your daughter is clearly trying to manipulate the legal system. That will be officially documented. That same afternoon, the social worker called. Mrs. Vance, we have received the medical report. It is clear that your daughter's allegations are baseless. We are closing the case. Rebecca had not only failed, but now she had an official record of filing a false complaint. That night, I decided to do something I had been putting off. I wrote an open letter detailing my entire experience, not for Clara, but for other mothers. I titled it, When a Mother's Love Becomes Self-Destruction, My Story of Liberation at 70. I sent it to an online blog for older women. The editor was ecstatic. The story was published and went viral. Thousands of women shared similar stories. My 40-year-old son lives in my house, doesn't pay rent, and yells at me when I ask him to look for a job. My daughter only calls me when she needs money. I thought I was the only mother who felt used by her own children. But the most impactful thing came a week later. An email from an address I immediately recognized. It was Marcus, my former son-in-law. Eleanor, I saw your story. I need you to know that I completely agree with you. What Clara said to you was unforgivable. I was a witness to how she manipulated you, but I never had the courage to confront her because we were so dependent on your financial help. I want you to know that the kids miss you. Clara has told them that you're sick, but I believe they deserve to know the truth when they are older. I know it's probably too late for apologies, but I wanted you to know that at least one person in this family acknowledges how badly we treated you. I hope you are happy in your new life. I replied, Marcus, I appreciate your honesty. I hope this experience helps you teach your children to value the people who love them before it's too late. 6 months after my arrival in Florence, my new life was flourishing. I received a call from Michael. Eleanor, I have interesting news. Clara's house has been foreclosed on by the bank. David couldn't find a stable job. They moved to a small apartment. Clara had to go back to work. I didn't feel joy, just a deep satisfaction of justice. There's more, Michael continued. The house was sold at auction. Since you were the primary financier and held the note, you have recovered your initial investment of $1.5 million plus interest and penalties. I was receiving almost $1.8 million, money that would have been lost forever. That night, I celebrated at my favorite restaurant. I toasted the brave woman who had the courage to start over. 2 years after my arrival, I received a physical letter. The handwriting was childlike. Dear Grandma Eleanor, Dad told us the truth about why you left. He told us that Mom said some very ugly things to you. We want you to know that we miss you a lot, and we understand why you left. We are proud of you for being so brave. When we are older, we would like to visit you in Italy. We love you. It was signed by both twins. I cried for an hour. Today, 3 years after that terrible birthday, I am sitting on my balcony in Florence, writing the last lines of my story. I am 73 years old. I am financially secure. I am surrounded by genuine friends. And I am at peace. Clara had asked me as a birthday gift to disappear. I granted her that wish. What she never calculated was that by losing me, she not only lost a mother, but she also lost the person who had kept her entire world stable. My disappearance was my gift to her. My new life was my gift to me. And it was worth every tear. Because sometimes, the only way to save yourself is to have the courage to lose yourself completely in order to be reborn as the person you were always meant to be.